Okay, here we are for our next episode, and it's John and Lorianne again together.
Hello.
So, we wanted to come on for our brain power breakthroughs today and discuss a little bit about, John has been in a couple of relationships, and you have got your own children and you have stepchildren. So, even blending families is such a huge undertaking. But then, being in a divorce situation, I know when I was looking up how to help teens be successful, and I was searching what you are looking for, what teens are looking for, it is they wanted more information around divorce, around death, and around suicide. And those are such deep subjects. And I know we talked about this in one of our really early episodes, but I wanted to tackle a little bit about, going through divorce and then becoming you're still your child's parent no matter what, but then you become a step parent and you are not just raising kids, but you're trying to get your own life put back together. And so sometimes there's a lot of balancing going on. It's a balancing act. What did you find? I know that I've heard your wife, Amy, say you brought peace and calm to the relationships. And you learned a lot of that through your mom and your mentors, and we talked about them on our previous session. So I wanted you to talk a little bit about what has been the impact for your children. Maybe we don't want to throw them under the bus or anything. We're not here to rat them out on anything, but how your relationship has been able to help influence them, and times maybe when you could see some things to help guide them. What information would you give kids today that have dealt with divorce and death and all of those things?
The first thing I would request from them is be open and communicate. Okay. We may see things, we may not. But if you want to be open and communicative to us, we will do the same for you. And I think that's what the difference was for me. Amy had younger children when we got together, and literally I kind of just became their friend and talked to them all the time, asked them questions. More importantly, I allowed them to ask me questions, because I think in that context, the questions they came to me with, they were looking for specific answers that gave them a comfort level with me. And I was able to do that. And so, my stepchildren, I gave them, for lack of better terminology, I gave them a lot of rope. Okay. I gave them a lot of rope, but I gave them that rope with a lot of guidance. And they appreciated me for that. They didn't feel like they were being restricted by another set of parents, and so I think that's what helped. And that's what, we both learned from each other a lot better that way. So, it does, to me, it's all about being open and communicating. And, what's that old saying? If it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Yeah.
Well, they weren't broke.
Right.
And they needed to know that. Sometimes I think going through a divorce, I remember back when my parents got a divorce. The night they told my brother and I about it, my brother's first response was, "What did we do wrong?" and he was talking about him and I. He said, what did John and I do wrong? Had nothing to do with us. But he didn't know that.
Mm.
And so that opened up the communication for us to discuss and for my brother and I to learn, oh, it didn't have anything to do with us. We just got caught in the middle.
Mm.
But by bringing that subject up and asking that question, it had opened up a discussion that revealed a lot of the issues. And it made my brother and I realize that we didn't cause it. And I think sometimes there's that hurt that kids have, because I truly believe my brother did. I truly believe that sometimes kids feel like a divorce is their fault.
Right.
And so, when it comes to that, parents, please, 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 please make doggone sure your kids understand. You're going through this. This has nothing to do with them.
Yeah.
You
How did your kids feel?
My kids, I'll go back to the same thing. My kids were confused because they didn't know why their mom and dad were moving apart from each other, until I sat down and told them what was going on. Now, they immediately went to their mother and asked her, is this true? And she did say yes. And then we all sat down together and talked. I think a lot of that next conversation for us was what was next. I think the kids were concerned about what's next for them. Were they going to, because they knew in my divorce with my first wife, they knew I was going to stay in this town, but she was going to move to another town. So I'm sure there was that a little bit of angst from them going, who am I going with? Does that mean I'm going to a brand new town, a brand new school, brand new, now I got to find new friends and all this. But that's where the communication comes in. Mom and dad, you've got to open up those lines of communication and let these kids know. Comfort them as much as you can because they're scared. Okay. Anytime something like this happens in lives of kids, they're going to be scared. So give them that level of comfort that they need, but just open up the lines of communication so they can have an understanding of what's going on and what's next and how it's going to affect them and how it's going to benefit them and all of those different things.
I've heard that a lot of people, when this happens, that they bait the children against the other spouse.
Unfortunately, that does happen.
And so you are opening up the communication, but I also feel like there's got to be some part of the conversation that might not be shared in an aspect of, damaging that relationship with the other parent.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of times there's things that happen. We live in a world where things happen, and it's good to be honest, but it also is good to go back into that relationship with the child, making sure that they know it's not their fault.
Exactly.
And that you get that really clear with them. Mom and dad, we've got some issues, things have happened, it's not your fault. This is choices we've made. It's not because of you.
Yep.
And so I do see that there is, that communication is so key, as long as you're keeping it with respect.
Yes, very much so. The respect issue is huge when it comes to this. We hear so many stories about, this parent said so many bad things about this parent.
Yeah.
We hear so many stories about kids not being allowed to see their other parent because the one parent just doesn't want to let them see them. Okay. Don't do that. I'm just going to tell you that right out front. Don't do that.
Unless there's safety issues.
Yeah, no, yeah, that's true.
Unless
Yeah,
there's safety
Yeah.
issues, then
Yeah.
absolutely,
Yeah.
then you've got to respect that.
yes. Because I'm going to tell you, if there's not a safety issue, and you're just doing this out of spite, here's what's going to happen. At some point in time, that child's going to get old enough, they're going to find out what the real truth is.
Always.
It always comes out. Always comes out.
Yeah.
And if that's the case, when it does, the parent that did the holding back, they're going to have some explaining to do. And that's not going to be an easy conversation to have with your child.
Yeah.
You know, the last thing I ever want to hear from a child is, why did you keep me from seeing my dad? Why did you keep me from seeing my mom?
Yeah.
That's the last thing I want to hear from a child. So, yeah, don't do that. Be open. There's
Yeah.
nothing wrong with being open. You will find that life goes a much smoother pathway when you're open
Yeah.
and you communicate freely. And my wife is writing a book called Blameless. If you can live a blameless life, you're going to live a really good life. And that means don't blame your other spouse. Don't blame your kids. Don't blame your stepkids. Don't blame your own kids. I was fortunate, I had two boys of my own, and they really did understand everything quite well. They really, really did. I've got a stepson and a stepdaughter with Amy, and they're both just beautiful souls. I love them both like they are my own. And I hold them dearly to that. And they know that. That's part of the open communication that I've chose to have with them is I want them to know I look at them as being my own as well.
Right.
And they can come to me for anything. And they do. And I appreciate that.
As well as your boys, your older,
Oh, yeah.
your own.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My two boys of my own, I have told them always, you have an open door to my house. You have an open phone line to my phone. There is nothing I'm going to hold you back from. And, we've had a blessed relationship because of that. We really have. And it's been great. And I've loved every bit of it. So, and it all comes from just being open to communicate,
And listen, the power of listening.
Yeah, very true.
They'll tell you exactly what they want
Yes,
if you just make the time to listen. Yeah. Well, this has been a great episode. Thanks. I knew it was going to get a little personal with John on this one, and he had some great strength and energy today. So I wanted to
You're
give,
pretty good today.
yeah, I wanted to give that gift to people.
Thank you.
You, while you're feeling so good, and
Yeah.
we get to be in the same room together.
Yes, it's been a blessing. That is true.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay. Well,
So
thanks.
thanks for being on board with us. Hit the subscribe. I'm going to do this. So hit the subscribe button, hit the little bell, hit the share box, and send this to all your friends. And we look forward to our next episode with you. Until then, that's Lori
See you
Ann.
later.
I'm John. This is Brain Power Breakthroughs for you. Go have a great day.